and gentlemen, we're going to make a second stop, but the walk there is a little bit rougher and in the sand. And as we running a little bit late, because we were delayed this morning, I would welcome anybody who would like to go, but in particular those who can, walk a little bit faster.
Actually here, even if you go back to the period of Moses and so on, when it talks about that Joshua son of Nun, he crossed the river Jordan into Jericho, and that's the importance of this place, the river Jordan, of course is the place where Joshua son of Nun, after Moses, he did lead the children of Israel crossing the river Jordan into Jericho when they went 7 times around the city wall, Then also it's the place where Elijah, he ascended up to heaven on a chariot of fire, and the place where our Lord was baptized.
By the way, a quick word here. We'll be having reading from the Bible. Over there, a rectangular shape of a building. Seems to us that was a praying room. Possibly, seems to us, according to archaeologists, that was built on the 2nd century AD, and that was built during the Roman period, when Christianity was in secret, and the fish was the symbol of Christianity. So people at that time, they knew about this place, but they could not build churches like where we are standing right now. That's a Byzantium church. They did restore the arch over here, and you can see the mosaic over here. They don't know what this church, the name of this church. So it was named by Department of Antiquities, what? Jean Paul II, to commemorate the day when we in Jordan, we were celebrating for the 3rd millennium. Even when the Pope Jean Paul II, he visited Jordan on the 20th of March 2000. A big mass was held in Amman, 50,000 people in the mass. We don't have a church, we did use the stadium where we play the football. Even at that time, 2,000 children were having the first communion at the same time. Among the 2,000, 2 of them were my kids. Beautiful. Thank you. Nice. And he did visit Mount Nebo. Look over there, the peak. Can you see the peak? That's what we're going next. The place where Moses stood facing the Promised Land. You could see the peak, Pizka. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Is that where the buildings are?
Yes. Exactly. It looks like, exactly. As if you're standing where I'm standing, 12 o'clock, up on the highlight, the peak. Can you see the peak? That's Mount Nebo.
That's the one here, like this, eh?
Right?
See, on the top of the mountain. The
Like sea.
Exactly. It looks like trees on the top.
Три таких, как вершинки небольших, ровно посередине одна, это и есть гора Nebo, с которой Моисей видел обещанную землю, когда он вышел из Египта. Что? А это место, это холм пророка Илии, с которого пророк Илья вознесся, где Ангел.
And of course, later on after the reading, we're going to go together around the tell, where it's believed, according to archaeologists and historians, that possibly that's the place where Elijah, he ascended up to heaven on a chariot of fire. And when we talk about Joshua son of Nun, again look behind you, Jericho, see how close it is. It's not in Jordan. Yeah? Wow. So here we are.
Are there going to be more excavations here?
Of course. Now, as Father did mention, pilgrims like Maria and so on, visiting this place, and there is records that talks about their names and when they did visit with historians. Nowadays, you left Jerusalem. We were waiting for the bus to come. We went to visit Bethany. Then we are going up to Mount Nebo, then to Meribah, down to Petra in one day. Such a trip in the past, they used to have at least more than 2 weeks. So which means that pilgrims who reach this place, they are in need to have at least 1 night rest. So definitely in future when they are going to excavate more, but excavation costing a fortune, more churches will be found. We will find the places where pilgrims used to have overnight. Like the Petra Palace Hotel nowadays, we have it in Petra, but in the past, when pilgrims they reach here like you, they are in need to have at least 1 night rest. Because the maximum distance they could make it a day is what? 40 kilometers, 27 miles? This is why on the trade route, every 1 day travel there was a caravanserai or khan. So more will be found, but funding is the most important thing.
Sing many years with Father Elias. So when he comes in, we will do this. Ran to his mother, Latushka and his children, good health, long life, spiritual joy, salvation. God grant them many blessed years. God grant you many years. God grant you many years. God grant them many, many, many years.
Thank you.
Lord,
is the place where Moses stood facing the promised land. And let me ask this question, but two in the bus are not allowed to answer it. Among them Father Elia, Father Jim. You're not allowed to answer this question. Do you know why Moses, he did not enter the promised land? You know, Moses, he did not cross into the promised land. Do you know why? He was, okay, who was angry? Moses, exactly. So you know. So I think Father Jim and Father Elia, they were taking good care of teaching you well the Bible. And by the way, Book of Numbers, chapter 20. It talks about when Moses, he left Egypt with the children of Israel, trying to take a permission, traveling on the King's Highway. Today, even with this, within these few hours, you know, you will tell by yourself why Moses was trying to be on the King's Highway. First of all, the King's Highway is the highland, is the trade route, is the Mediterranean climate, is the area where average rainfall about 14 inches of rainfall. But as these kingdoms who refused to let Moses to cross from their land to the promised land, our Holy Bible says what? That Moses with the children of Israel were wandering for 40 years in the wilderness. Wilderness is what? It's what we call a desert. But by the way, today we are going to cross part of the Jordan Desert. Even the highway, it's called the Desert Highway. But if you ask me as Michelle, do you really have desert in Jordan? My answer is no, we don't have desert. Even that old books says what? That 80% of the land in Jordan is desert. The south and the east, it's desert. Actually, what we have in Jordan, we have steppe. Steppe means what? Any area in the world, if average rainfall is about 4 inches a year, it won't be enough for growing grasses. Where average rainfall in the south or the east of Jordan, it's only about 2.5 inches of rainfall a year. So it's a steppe. But the Bible talks about the place under the name of wilderness. Now, wilderness means what? Wilderness means desert or steppe. So the Bible is right and we are wrong as usual. We are wrong. Now, so that's the difference. The fertile land where Moses was trying to be, where the springs of water. Now, Book of Numbers, chapter 20. It talks about when Moses, he did send his messengers, you know, to Sela. You know, Sela or Sela, S-E-L-A, Sela. It's a word in Aramaic, means rock, which is possible Petra, what we are going to see tomorrow. You know, Petra, it's a Latin word, means rock. So, the Edomites, they refused to let Moses to cross. Even that Moses' messengers, they told the Edomites what? We are your cousins. Let us cross, and we shall not enter your vineyards. We shall not drink from your wells without paying. Now, what do they mean by this? If we entered your vineyards and if we drink from your wells, we shall pay for it. Even that the Edomites, they refuse, and they told Moses' messengers, if Moses try to cross from our kingdom, we will march against him with a big army. We will fight against Moses. You know, the Edomites, they were the descendant of Esau. The children of Israel, they were the descendant of Jacob. Of course, Isaac, Jacob.
Isaac is the father of Jacob and Esau. You are right now? So they were the cousins, right? And at that time, the children of Israel, they start complaining to Moses, telling Moses what? Moses, why did you bring us here? If we stayed in Egypt, we could drink, we could eat. You bring us here in the middle of nowhere to die. So the Lord told Moses, Moses, talk to the rock over there, and out of the rock, I'll give you water. Now Moses, instead of talking to the rock, he struck the rock twice. The Lord gave him water. But because he disobeyed the order of God, instead of talking to the rock, he struck the rock. The Lord told Moses, Moses, you shall not enter the land that I had promised it to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants. You shall see it only. So that's the reason. As Moses disobeyed God. Now, when Moses stood facing the promised land at the top of Mount Nebo, where we are going, of course it's mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 34. Now Deuteronomy 34 says that Moses, he was 120 years old. His eyes were not dim, which means he could see very clear. When the Lord showed Moses the Gilead mountains, and we are going to see this view from the top. You can see Mount Nebo again on the right hand side, up on the highlight. Start to be right now 2 o'clock. Now it's about 1 o'clock. The peak. And just look on the peak, because it's mentioned this peak in book of Deuteronomy chapter 34. Now 34 says what? That when Moses stood facing the promised land, when the Lord showed Moses the Gilead mountains, the Jordan Valley where we are, the city of palm trees, Jericho, the land of the children of Israel, the Negev, the Western Sea, as far as Zorah, which is in the southern part of the Dead Sea. Now, then Moses was buried by the Lord opposite the valley of Beth Peor. No man found his grave. He was buried by the Lord. The period of Moses was the 12th century BC. On the 4th century AD, which means 16 centuries after Moses, Byzantium, they were following Moses' footsteps, the steps of Moses from Sinai in Egypt until Mount Nebo. Monastery was built on the 4th century AD, but the beautiful fragments of mosaic or mosaico, we shall see it up there, it goes back to the 6th century AD. In 1932, Franciscan Fathers of Jerusalem, they came to Mount Nebo. And at that time in 1932, the mountain was owned by a man, his name Saleh. So, Franciscan Fathers, they bought the place, and they did pay for it at that time what? 500 sterling pound. In 1932, 500 sterling pound was a lot of money. Even at that time, laborers, they used to earn about between 4 to 6 piastres a day to work from the sunrise till the sunset. So they did offer more than it should be in 1932 to encourage Saleh to sell. And he did. Where since 1933, Franciscan Fathers, they start excavation and restoration up there. And all of the mountain up there is a custody for the Franciscan Fathers. So it's a Christian holy site. Might sometimes people, when I work with groups, they might say, Michel, how could they tell that up there that's Mount Nebo? How could they tell that's the place? And there is 16 centuries different in timing between the period of Moses and the Byzantium. 16 centuries. Now, the Old Testament also could give us a very good idea about the geography of this area. When it says that Moses, he went up to Mount Nebo, the name of the mountain, Mount Nebo, on the top of Pisgah. Pisgah, it's a word in Aramaic. The Aramaic language is the language that was spoken by
our Lord Jesus Christ. And Pizka, it's a word in Aramaic, means the peak. So wherever we look, you could see easily, yeah, you could point it to where Mount Nebo is. You see, wherever you look, directly, oh, it's up there. Yeah, now. And when we start driving up, you'll find out. Then it says the Bible what? That Mount Nebo, Pizka, it's across Jericho. And when we get up there on the top, you'll find out that you'll be exactly facing Jericho, across Jericho.
Brothers. Brothers, no, brothers. How is it doing?
One is 6, a year and a half.
Wow, God bless them.
The older one.
So how high are we in terms of the Dead Sea? Or
Okay, now the question about how high or what's the elevation here. You know, the Dead Sea, you know, well, shall I use feet or meters or feet? Okay with everybody? Or do you want to do both? Okay, both, okay. Now the Dead Sea, you know, well, it's about 400 meters below sea level, which is 1,300 feet below sea level. And up here, Mount Nebo, when we get to Mount Nebo, we'll be on about 700 meters above sea level, which means approximately about 2,300 feet above sea level where we are right now, and Mount Nebo just ahead. Pizka, the peak. So there is about 3,500 feet different in elevation, approximately about 1,100 meters. This is why with this short drive in winter season, when it's very cold up here in Mount Nebo, in Meribah, in Amman, in Petra, when we drive only for about 20 minutes drive to the west, down to the area of the Great Rift Valley, you know, the Jordan Valley, the Dead Sea, the Araba Valley, it's down there, the African climate, it's nice and warm. Even sometimes might be snowing in Amman. We drive down to the Dead Sea where people could go and float in the Dead Sea. Now in about a minute, we'll be stopping our bus, where we'll be having the short tour to visit Mount Nebo. Now, if that's okay with you, please, let's try to be together so that to show you as much as we can, where we'll be talking about what's on our way till we end with the view, yeah? Then we'll tell you exactly what's the plan, okay? Thank you. I know that today we are planning to have late lunch, and we are planning for this so that we could eat more, because the place where we'll be having lunch, it's a nice place and we need to eat a lot. Sometimes you may go to a place early lunch. Actually that's an excuse, but I hope you'll enjoy lunch after Mount Nebo, the short tour here. Thank you.
Roll down. How will it do this? Twarzy łapą. Jest? Church. Oh. This because they are still waiting for Jesus Christ to come.
Maybe not for Jesus.
They are still waiting for him.
For whom?
He
Some.
came 2,000 years, more than 2,000 years ago, and they are still waiting. Look, that's their problem. It's not our problem. But but we know well that Byzantium, they built a church here that was built even during the Byzantium period. You know, who were following the Moses' footsteps from Sinai in Egypt, yeah, until Mount Nebo here. Muslims comes and visit this place also. Yeah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, about this place here, on this big rock. First of all, that says 2080, and that was carved when we were celebrating for the 3rd millennium. Even over there it says, you know, the Pope Jean Paul II, when he visited Mount Nebo. at the year 2000. Down there, inscription in Latin. I don't read ancient Greek, but it says what? One God, Father of all, above all. That's in Latin. Even over there, it says Franciscan custody of the Holy Land. Mount Nebo Siaga, you know Siaga in Arabic, which means Pizka. Memorial of Moses, Christian holy site. Now, maybe at the end after the view, it's worth it to give them a few minutes more, about maybe 5 minutes more, something like this, if you'd like to take more pictures and so on. Yeah? Shall we keep on to see the mosaic and then the view?
Yes.
Yalla.
Yalla, yalla.
want to see the sign.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope the bus was clear when we were talking about Byzantium, who were following Moses' footsteps from Sinai in Egypt. Now, these little mosaics were inside the church, okay? But since 2 years and 10 months ago, we could not step inside the Byzantium church because the movement of earth affects on the foundation of the church. And we'll be passing the church on our way. They are restoring. Again, we hope in the bus was clear when we were talking about why Moses did not cross into when he struck the rock. Then when Moses stood facing the promised land. Again, when the Lord showed Moses the Gilead mountains. These are the mountains of Gilead, the biblical Gilead. Yeah. Then the Jordan Valley down there from where we came. Yeah. The Dead Sea. Jericho at the foot of the mountain just across, in between Jericho and the Jordan Valley. Even from here you could see the gorge of the River Jordan. You know, by looking to the west of the green area, can you see a black dark line coming from the north toward the south? Yeah. That's the gorge of the River Jordan. Again, the River Jordan. If you look, okay. Listen, if you look to the west of the green area, can you see a black dark line coming from the north toward this? I know it's hazy, but you know, a black dark line coming from the north down to the south toward the Dead Sea. Yeah? That's the gorge of the River Jordan. Jerusalem from here, Jericho 12 o'clock, Jerusalem 11 o'clock, up on the highlight, no way to see it. And the there is behind you, you know, behind you there is the symbol of the cross and the snake.
Oh, yeah.
And in book of John, when Jesus said, like Moses, when Moses he lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, is the symbol of healing. Nowadays, this symbol used by whom? The cross and the snake.
Doctors.
Doctors, medical. Okay?
Michelle,
Yes,
where is the rock? Is there any record
Of the rock?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked a question, but the question is, we need to gather to answer it. Or the question is, where is the rock that Moses he struck? First of all, it's not in this area, because read the Bible. Moses he was trying to take a permission from the Edomites, from Petra, which is Selah, which is possible Petra. So I'll be adding few words more about this in the side of Petra tomorrow, if you allow me. Okay? Remind me if I forget. I think it's better to talk about it, but it's not